Hey y'all, welcome to Squarebox Games, where today I'm going to teach you how to play Harry Potter Hogwarts Battle. This game is a cooperative deck building game where you and your friends team up as Harry, Hermione, Ron, and Neville in order to take down Voldemort and all the other villains before they take over Hogwarts. Now, this game is split up into 7 different games representing the 7 years that Harry and his friends were at Hogwarts. Game 1 being the easiest, Game 7 being the hardest. Game 1, you start out fighting villains like Quirrell and Draco and Crabbe and Goyle. Game 7, not only do you fight them, you're also fighting Voldemort and Umbridge and Dementors and Basilisks and Tom Riddle. Yes, they're different, I don't know. But you want to fight them before they take over Hogwarts. So let's get into this as we talk about Harry Potter Hogwarts Battle. All right, y'all, so here is the board as it would be set up when you started a new game. So the first thing I'm gonna do is talk to you about the play space and the cards, on what the cards do. So each player, I've got Harry in front of me, Ron to my left, Hermione to my right, and Neville across from me. Each player sets up their board as such. You get your health bar and your banks here, you put your deck to your left, you've got your turn order card right here, and you've got your hero card here. For the first 3 years, the hero card means nothing. You don't really, it just sits there and looks pretty. But on year 3, you actually get a hero ability, which adds an extra level. But they try and keep it simple for the beginning. Just set it there and just let it look pretty. So each player has a hero deck. And the point of the game is to build that deck and become more effective as a hero to defeat the villains. Each player starts out with 10 cards that are specifically made for them. Like, for instance, here's Hedwig. You notice that this says Harry on the bottom. And for instance, this card, you gain 1 attack point, or you can recover 2 hearts, depending on if you've taken damage. It's up to you. Each player has cards specifically made for them. The next thing in reference to, like I said, building your cards would be the Hogwarts cards. These guys right here, like this one's an item. Each card has a specific thing. There's spell cards, there's ally cards, which are like your characters like Dumbledore, Molly Weasley, Fred, George, Lupin, stuff like that. There's all kinds of them in there. But this one happens to be an item card. That comes into play with certain abilities and different cards later. But each one of these has a value at the bottom left. Well, bottom right if you're looking at it, but right now it's the bottom left. To where you can actually purchase them. So in your deck, in each one of your hero decks, you have such as this spell card, Alohomora. Each player starts out with Alohomora. It gains you 1 coin. So when you play this card, you gain 1 coin. You put it in your bank. And let's just say, for the sake of argument, that I have 3 coins here, and I want to buy this Quidditch gear. So I would just cash in the 3 coins, and then it would go straight face up to my discard pile on my right side. The way that you get started here with these Hogwarts cards, and I'll place that one back, is you place them, the top 6, in these spaces right here, and these are the cards that you have to choose from. As you pick one up, you replace it with another card at the end of your turn. So if you buy all 6 of them, you don't replace it until the beginning of the next person's turn. So that is how you build your deck. The second thing would be the dark arts cards. Now, every single turn, no matter what, you start your turn by revealing a dark arts card and resolving it. Like, for instance, this one, He Who Must Not Be Named, add 1 little icon guy to the location, which we'll get to in a second. The locations is how the villains win. We'll get to that in just a second. So depending on what year you're doing, you may have to pull more than 1 dark arts card. It just kind of depends on the year. But starting in year 1, you pull 1 per turn. These right here are our villains. Again, in game 1, we only start with 1 villain, but these spaces right here are our villain spots. So in game 1, we just have 1 active villain at a time. In each villain card, you have a couple different a couple different values. You have your villain health right there. So Quirrell has 6. You have what his villain ability is. The villain ability, it actually comes into play right after you play your dark arts card. Any villain ability triggers right after the dark arts. So, for instance, with Quirrell, if he is out on the field, every single time you will lose 1 heart at the beginning of your turn, no matter what, unless there's some other thing that blocks it. But for all intents and purposes, if he's out on the field at the beginning of your turn, you're taking 1 damage. They also have a reward. So if you beat Quirrell, all heroes looks like it gains 1 coin and 1 heart each. So, and after a foe is vanquished, you just put them in the discard pile face up so you can see who you've defeated. How you go about defeating villains, we'll talk about this real quick. Let's say we play our Hedwig card and we choose to get 1 damage. We put it in our bank. At the end of our turn, we're going to assign damage to Quirrell. So now he has 5 health remaining because math. So that is the basics of the villains. The last thing and most important thing to watch out for is your locations. Every year has different locations. Every other card on the board will stack upon itself for each of the 7 years. The locations are the only ones that do not. So for instance, year 1, game 1, it's notated in the top corner here, like this one says 2 of 2, but it says game 1. This one says 1 of 2. So basically, you put these on the table, 1 of 2, you start at Diagon Alley. If that one gets taken, you go to the Mirror of Erised. And if they take both of those, you lose. So each card has location tokens kind of imprinted on the bottom. So every time that you get a card, for instance, with this Dark Arts card, says add 1 to the location, you take one of these little metal icon dark marks, and you put it on one of the icons. Once you have, in this case, 4 icons on here, this card goes away, and you're left with 1 left. And if this one goes, you lose. The villains win. The villains took over Hogwarts, and everything is terrible. So you don't want that to happen. So we'll put that back there because we want the good guys to win. Basic play here is at the beginning of every turn, you're going to draw 5 cards. So as Harry here, I'm going to draw 5 cards. If I cannot drop them. Now, as you can see here, I drew 3 Alohomoras, a Nimbus 2000, and Hedwig. So there's really not point in not playing something because at the end of your turn, any cards left in your hand go to the discard pile as if they were played. In some cases, there are cards that you don't want to play that turn for whatever reason. Maybe the timing's not right or anything like that. But for all intents and purposes, you kind of just count up what you got in your deck and in your hand and just go with that. So for instance, I have 3 Alohomora cards that I'm going to cash in. So that would get me 3 coins. I have a Firebolt, not Nimbus 2000, I apologize, which will gain me 1 damage. So I'll play that, and we'll get 1 damage in our bank here. And the last one is Hedwig, which I will use, and will get me 1 more damage because I'm full health. Makes sense? Cool. Well, in that case, actually, if I'm playing for real, I'm not at full health because Quirrell's there and I took 1 damage. But in that regard, I'm still going to play Hedwig for the damage. And then at the end of the turn, I'm going to assign my damage to Quirrell. He is at 4 damage left. I have 3 coins to spend, and I'll pick up a Quidditch gear, which goes to the bottom of the discard pile. My hand goes on top, and then I draw the remaining 5 cards in my deck. Now I have 11 cards in my deck. See how this builds up over time? As you go around, you get more and more cards. You always want to be adding more cards for the most part. If you're happy with your deck, if you're getting good damage output and everything, then stick with what you got. But as far as basic play goes, you'll just you'll just get as many cards as you can. Now, each player, after you get abilities in year 3, each player gets a certain strategy. Like, for instance, Hermione has an ability where she can get a lot of coins when she uses spells. Ron has a thing where he can get damage really easily. Neville heals, and Harry's kind of all around because, of course he is. So as you go, you kind of develop strategies, but just remember that every single player needs to be outputting damage. That's the most important thing. You'll run into that. I can remember me and my friends playing, and we got too into our own strategy, and we lost because we just weren't having the damage output. We were like, for instance, Hermione just had tons of coins, but couldn't do any damage. So it's, you kind of want to balance like that. So as you go through the years, as you beat other games and move on year 4, we'll actually implement these dice, representing the different colors of the houses. You've got Ravenclaw, Slytherin, Gryffindor, and Hufflepuff. Each die has symbols on it, and you'll see certain cards say, hey, roll this dice. The card symbol means that all players can draw a card. The coin symbol means that all players get 1 coin. The heart symbol, all players heal 1 heart. And the lightning bolt, all players get 1 damage token to assign. Each die has different values on it. So for instance, Ravenclaw has more draw power. Slytherin has more damage to it. Gryffindor has more coins, and Hufflepuff has more healing. So it adds another element. Some allies and whatnot will enable you to roll these dice, and it really adds another layer. Once you get to your other games, you actually add your Hogwarts cards, your Dark Arts cards, your Villain cards, and you go back to just your starting deck every single game. So when you get to game 7, you'll be still at the same 10 cards what you started with in game 1. So, it makes it pretty challenging. You really have to focus on getting your deck built up. But it's a great time. It's a super challenging game, but super fun game. So I highly recommend you pick it up. I believe it's on Amazon and whatnot. If you get it, comment down below. Let me know what you think. All right, with all that said, be sure to check back soon for a playthrough of Harry Potter Hogwarts Battle right here on Squarebox Games. Remember to leave a like, comment, subscribe, ring that little bell next to the subscribe button so you know when we upload new videos, which is as often as we can. We all have full-time jobs, so we do our best. But also check out Squarebox Digital, where we post our Twitch VODs, we post, Let's Plays, stuff like that. We'll go on that channel, so be sure to give that the old look-see. But for now, I'm not good at signing off, so Squarebox out.